everyone, and welcome back to the Whale Nerds podcast. This is episode 56, and guess what? The band is back together. So I got Eric and Slater, and we have a special guest, Erica, as well, who's going to be joining us for this episode.
Woo-hoo. Hi, Erica.
Hi.
How the heck are you guys?
Good.
Coping with whales and dogs and chocolate and weed and everything else.
Whoa, can you say that on this?
Why not?
Am I not allowed to be? I'm just being honest. Anyway, I'm glad to be reunited with my California friends, and now Caitlin, who's in the Northeast with me.
Yeah.
So things are looking up.
Yep. Erica and I don't live that far apart, but we haven't been able to meet up yet.
Not yet. No, my truck has been ailing. She's getting a new gas tank today, which is like a big old job, but we'll see.
Yeah, so...
Coping was a good word to use. Coping with the
literally coping.
I miss you guys, seriously.
Yeah.
I miss whales and you guys. I miss normal things.
Yeah. Taco trucks, for example, or like walking around Santa Cruz or doing anything fun. Like,
yeah. Or going to a restaurant.
True that.
Oh, yeah. Are you tired of your own cooking yet, Eric?
Yeah, and now I have a weird mass tan line from being on the boat.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you do.
We talked about that.
I think
Eric's is like you can see the strap on it.
See the strap right here.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, so I have a mass tan line.
Eric usually gets a really bad sunglass tan line with the mask. Oh, now that I look at you better in this light, I really can see it.
Can that be our...
You wear a buff?
No, I don't wear a buff because I'm freaking out about the buff, so I'm wearing like a real like mask and yeah, I looked finally. I was like, no, we can make this a thumbnail. Should take a picture of my face.
Wait, so what's wrong with the buff? You just don't feel like it's working?
I don't know. I just feel better with the.
Wait, do it again, Eric. I'll take a snapshot of it.
I point at it.
So now it's saved on our Skype chat, so everybody can have it.
That's perfect.
We can have all the fellow naturalists show off their tan lines. I'm sure someone else has it. Yeah.
Well, Eric and I were talking about I had one for a while, but then I did maintenance by myself for a couple days outside, and so then it went away.
Good. Yeah. But it's surprisingly still pretty busy here, you know, so I'm working my usual 6 days a week, and I always like to be outside, and with Kate's boat, I'm obviously always outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, Rona.
Oh man, I don't think you sneeze if you have COVID. I don't know. Don't listen to us for medical advice, okay?
No, I always have allergies at her parents' house.
Oh, that's true. Every time you go to SoCal, you end up with a head cold because you're.
Yeah, so imagine having one since I've moved back.
Damn.
Got to move back to Monterey again, I guess.
Yeah, who knows? Never say never. So let's get into chatting with our guest here, Erica. So you recently returned stateside, but you're on a normal non-COVID year. Your schedule's full of international trips and adventures and all kinds of stuff.
It is, and it feels super weird to like have to stay in one place like for a prolonged amount of time. I'm actually like finishing up writing my book, and there's so many adventures in it, including with the three of you going out in Monterey Bay, and it's so strange. I get like super nostalgic like writing about all these adventures, and I'm just like, I wish it was the before time, and like get all sad sappy, like I miss it. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it is a wake-up call, obviously. Like we have to all think about like our travel and whether or not it's been responsible. I've definitely contributed like a lot of carbon to the atmosphere by flying to a lot of places, but I've also sailed a lot, so I take that kind of as a counterbalancing point. Yeah, it's weird, but the book has been my main focus now that I have to like stay still and actually just finish it. So it's not the worst.
So if you had to like I was trying to think of like how to write like a basic like job description of like what you do. Would you call it like science writing or like environmental journalism or like as like day to day?
I call myself a writer, artist, and wildlife rehabilitator because those are like the three things I mainly do. But a more creative way I think would be like I basically go on adventures, find stories, and then like come back with photographs and notes and just write about what I've done and seen. I like to think of myself as like a messenger carrying, you know, the word of the wild back to people so we can kind of like find ways to treat the environment better and wildlife better.
Yeah, and
so
do you sometimes you have like someone who wants to pick up the story before you go on the adventure, but sometimes you find someone who wants to publish the story along the way or afterwards. Is that kind of how?
Yeah, so I pitch stories, and then also I've been asked to write stories. I had my first piece in The Guardian, woohoo, earlier this week, which was really, really cool.
Oh, good.
And they reached out to me, and I was like, how do they even know I exist? But that is really nice. I just like to stay humble and keep writing. I mean, I love wildlife, as you guys know. So to me, it's just like a pleasure to write about all these creatures we share the world with.
Yeah. And so explain how like what your work is with the Carl Safina Center a little bit. Like, do you write for him like on retainer, or like is he just a consistent person that publishes your work, or like what's the connection like with that?
It's a really interesting relationship. So I met Carl when I was still an undergraduate at Stony Brook. That's a university on Long Island where I am right now. And I remember he came to give a lecture to like a class I was taking in environmental literature. And he asked a question. And I remember I was like, I'm going to be smart and I'm going to answer it. And I did. And then he was like, why do you believe that? I don't even remember what the question was about, but he like kept probing me like, explain why. And I just like got really pissed off, and I was like getting like a little aggressive, like, why the hell are you doing this to me, annoying me, trying to make me like explain a whole long thing. Finally, like getting to know him over the years since we've like maintained a relationship, like he has been really, really helpful in developing my voice, and like that's why he was asking me why so many times, just to really make me understand what I was saying and believe in what I was saying. So that was a super valuable moment, I think. And yeah, so in terms of my work right now, I work as a freelancer for him, but I'm considered staff, but I'm also given a small fellowship for the past 3 years, to do my reporting specifically on plastic pollution. But the other work I do is a lot of like kind of communication stuff. So I'll communicate the messages of Carl's fellows. He has a broad fellowship program with various creative people working in things such as making music out of bug noises and whale noises, which is like very enjoyable to listen to people writing about like doing more what I do, like writing like classical kind of art, considered painting and stuff like that. So it's just really cool, and it's so inspiring to be surrounded by a network of people like that. And I'm really excited right now is that we're trying to promote a lot more diversity at the center, because obviously Carl is white, a lot of our fellows are white, and I think it would be really cool to boost the numbers of, you know, Indigenous and people of color. So we did do a really good job at boosting the number of women in the organization over the past 3 years. So that's been a little achievement that I think we should also celebrate.
Yeah. I think I feel like they do some really incredible work, but I think they really would get an even more like broad set of perspectives that are really important if they start to really include people from different groups and backgrounds and locations. Like I don't know if I've had the conversation with you, but I've had it with Jody, with like the Indigenous people of California like are pretty well assimilated at this point. Like there's not like reservations or anything that like demark, you know, like an obvious like territory for them like physically, but like obviously they exist in their own communities as they choose. But like, you know, especially in California where Carl has one of his big workplaces, like it would be, I think, important to give them some spotlight, because I feel like a lot of people walk around day to day in California and they like don't even think about it, you know, like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awareness, it's reach, it's also like honoring the unique artwork created by people of different backgrounds, because it's like we have a lot of different cultural arts like based in different areas, so we can go to like Southeast Asia and get a totally different interpretation of nature than we would get from like an indigenous person in California. So it's really exciting and really fun to kind of grow this organization. So that's what we're working on. Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, so a lot of the stories that you cover with Carl are about microplastics and plastic pollution. Is it like land and sea based like stories, or is it mostly ocean related, like marine debris, or?
Carl's background is really ocean heavy, and I think that's kind of also led me to kind of focus on the oceans with the issue of microplastic. And my book especially is like highly focused on the oceans, because I've been super fortunate to go sailing so many times with these groups that are looking for plastic in the oceans. Like land plastic, of course, is a huge issue, and that's where the problem originates. And I like to like make that super clear to anyone I speak to or write for. Sorry for the whining dog in the background. She's like wandering behind me, like, let me out. She's fine. We just went for a walk. Anyway, so I focus on the oceans just because that's like kind of a place where I think the issue is really well illustrated. And it's also this concept, which I'll cover in my book. This is a little teaser. But the concept of away, and like when we've been told to throw things away because that's the responsible thing to do. And often they do not end up actually anywhere that's considered away, because they'll end up in the oceans, they'll end up back on land. Oh, puppy, hello.
Episode without an interruption from a dog somewhere.
There has to be. Sabi's going to do it too. I can sense it. Yeah, so the oceans are like the biggest garbage receptacle we have, which is extremely sad. And actually, a new study just recently came out kind of updating our previous estimates. So scientists used to think that 8 million metric tons of plastic would go into the oceans every year, which is like a huge amount of plastic. And now they're saying that was a huge underestimate. It's more like 20 million metric tons a year. And by 2030, it might be 53 million metric tons of plastic pouring into the oceans every year. And I'm like, what about the whales? What about the fish? What about the sharks? Like, it's so screwed up. And it's really unfair to these animals that, like, they have no use for plastic. Maybe some barnacles could, like, make a life off of a plastic bottle, or you know, a dolphin might find something plastic and think it's cool. Like, who knows what they're thinking, but they're also like just being exposed to all of these microplastics that break up off the items over time, which are obviously causing huge health problems for these animals. So that's why I like to focus on oceans. It's a whole nother world that we don't even think about.
Yeah.
Slater, unmute yourself, dude.
I just said some good stuff. You guys missed it.
Oh,
Can't
no!
say it again. It's a one-time thing. No, you know what I was saying is living in SoCal versus Monterey, it's like night and day when it comes to how we in Monterey got rid of plastic straws and a lot of they forced like reusable cups down in like the farmers market and all that. And here, there's literally like it's like no such thing. It's like it never was, forced upon anyone. Every
Really?
restaurant is plastic straws. Yeah, I mean it's Orange County, California. So
Okay, yeah.
Well, and then also like in the wake of COVID, like a lot of places have reverted back to using single, claiming it's more sanitary, you know, when really there's not very much evidence to support that claim.
No,
Not
and
that
actually,
I ate Pizza Hut the other day, but Pizza Hut forces you to buy plastic, like a full thing of chili instead of giving packets out. They don't give that out anymore.
Oh, is that why? Yeah, I noticed that.
Wow.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, but why would they go to that versus the either way, it's a waste. But well, the other ones you could reuse the pepper shaker, to be honest, but the package was definitely a waste. So I don't know if it's better or worse. It's plastic, so it's guess it's worse. But yeah, it is crazy how everything here is like, it's like it. I just don't get how Starbucks in Monterey, like, if they get one branch to do it, why don't they just do it to all branches? And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's another whole like interesting topic to think about. Like when states or cities start to change their requirements, and then the big corporations that are nationwide chains have to comply with that local ordinance, but then they may not just have that conversation about adopting that practice nationwide. Like I've seen some chains do that where they're like, oh well, we've had 4 different cities this last year pass ordinances where we can't have plastic straws, so as a chain we're not going to do plastic straws. We're going to change the style of the cup, or we're going to do paper or whatever. But like that's not that doesn't seem to be a common thread amongst corporations, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, it's a huge money saver to like use plastic because it's cheap, and like getting replacements are not cheap. So I'm sure it's like something to do with that.
Oh yeah, it's
their
always
ability to save money. Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if using paper straws though is adding to like deforestation. Obviously, plastic is way worse, but I mean, is that also a thing too?
I mean, potentially. I guess I've never tried to chase down the source of the paper.
Yeah,
good question.
I never thought about that until just now.
I mean, I know you can make stuff like that out of bamboo as well, which if it's agriculture...
They have bamboo straws on the Newport Legacy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, bamboo seems
they are kind of obnoxious, I will say, that you put it in a cocktail and it just like shoots back up like past the cocktail. So they are a little obnoxious, but we have paper straws, but yeah, we have both.
Because you can also make paper products with bamboo, you know, depending on how you want to process it. So.
Right.
Bamboo is really quick growing too, so it's more of something that's sustainable. Yeah.
I did see a goal in the. We were in the harbor. Margaret and I were out on a boat a couple days ago by ourselves, and there was a little goal to like it was like grabbing a straw and like lifting it up in the air and dropping it.
Yeah.
But then he ended up letting it be and he took off. But he was definitely chewing on a straw.
Yeah, they don't know. It's like, you know, unless the word gets out among animals.
I guess I don't know how well goals
flavor.
I know they. Hey, what if it had a little bit of Slurpee left on it?
It could be.
You know what I mean?
Good point. It's a good point. Yeah.
Oh my God! I let her out and now she went back.
My dog is looking at deer and she's barking at them. So sorry about that. Sup?
You have deer in
your yard? Where are you at?
I'm on Long Island, New York.
Lacey, are you coming in or out?
Savvy.
Little turkey.
You know what would be funny, is it? Lacey and Savvy and then starting freaking out.
Candid right now. Puppies, relax. Jesus.
If what?
If the 2 dogs could hear each other and they both start freaking out.
Oh yeah.
Lacey doesn't. She's just wandering.
Savvy, cut it out. Come here. Come here.
Okay, so as far as like plastics and the work you've done, I mean, you can kind of take this as a segue into some of the sailing cruises you've had the opportunity to go out and do, but is there any other like stories that you've collected and written that you, I don't know, like what feels like the most compelling as far as like what got the best, how did you reach people the best when telling the story of plastic? Because it's so sad.
Yeah.
It's a hard topic to flip around and end up on the optimistic end of like, you know, uplifting people to do the right thing and fight the good fight type.
Right.
It's such a hard topic to do that with.
It's a good question. I think my best strategy was like writing about those expeditions and doing it in like a photojournalistic way. So including the images and these compelling, these images of plastic like in your hand that you just scooped out of water in Hawaii and you're just like have a handful of plastic. People have been like, okay, that's really startling.
Yeah.
But I wrote, this is a funny anecdote. I wrote 2 stories off of my first trip with Plastic Change. So I've done 2 expeditions with a Danish group called Plastic Change. We sailed LA to Hawaii and then Hawaii to French Polynesia. That was 2 different trips. And then I sailed in Iceland and I've sailed across the Atlantic, which I'll get to later. But the first expedition, the garbage patch, so LA to Hawaii, insane, totally crazy trip. Also a group of Danish people on a boat with no functioning bathroom. Like 9 of us are sharing a bucket to poop in for 24 days. Really nice. Sorry, Slater's eating banana. Talking about poop. I'm sorry. No, but anyway, it was a very rough trip, and like the boat was so spare, and like things broke. We lost our rudder, we lost our engine, basically limped into Hawaii. It was insane. So I wrote the story, and guess who shared it on Facebook? Leonardo DiCaprio. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Scientific American. So I was like, okay, badass publication, badass guy shares it. I'm doing well. And I was like 24 and I thought it was so cool. And now I would be like, whatever, I have so much more work to do. But it was like a cool thing. So then I started also speaking about my trips, and I thought it was like a great way to kind of bring the story to people, because, you know, not everyone's going to go read stories in Scientific American or like, you know, be online or in the newspaper, whatever. You know, it's not everyone, but not for everyone. So I started speaking about it, traveling. I've given talk as far away as in this weird little place in Italy called Matera. It's like a really old city in Italy. And yeah, so that's how I kind of make my reach and share the word of the ocean.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
On the LA to Hawaii, you went across the North Pacific Gyre. And then from Hawaii to French Polynesia, like, there's another gyre system west of Hawaii, right?
Yes, that's like the Western North Pacific Gyre. So that's more of like trash from Japan, although it mixes with the Eastern. And so we did get a lot of Japanese trash on the islands. But in Polynesia, we were crossing the equator, and there's the equatorial countercurrent. So we were like, okay, what are we gonna see here, where this like current that's fueling the gyre is cutting through the middle of the earth? It sounds so ominous. But yeah, that was also very interesting. There was a lot less plastic on that trip, but now we know kind of it was probably pushing it up.
So that was the Pacific Gyre. Was the LA to Hawaii? Was it pretty crazy to see?
It was so weird. Like, we're like floating through. It wasn't like what people have described in the media. And I try to tell everyone this. It's like the problem is not like one floating garbage dump. We do see areas like that, like literal patches of garbage, but that was not what was out there. This was like a lot of it was just below the surface. A lot of microplastic, much more microplastic than anything else. So it's not what you would envision a garbage patch looking like. It was more like clean blue sea, and then it's like you look down and it's like a bottle, you know, some weird things. We saw like fishing crates and light bulbs and like lots of different random stuff.
We found a light bulb on Caitlin.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
It was from like a squid boat or something.
Squid boats, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So lots of crazy stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
Or they lose it overboard.
Yeah. Or it breaks off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, so I did like a marine mammal observer cruise from San Diego to Point Conception and back, and like even 400 miles offshore, it's similar to what you described. You go through these zones where you have like crates and buckets and pallets and water bottles, and like, you know, it's like every 30 seconds passing debris, but the water's clear blue, you know, so
it's bizarre. Yeah. Did you try to fish the things out, Caitlin, when you were out there?
No, we were on a really big ship, like a 300 long ship, but they were doing like invertebrate plankton tows, and so I'm sure that they were getting debris.
Oh yeah.
But since we were on observation, and then like the only time we got breaks is when they were hauling nets, so we didn't usually go down and look at what they were doing.
Right.
You guys were taking samples when you were sailing across, right?
We did. We took manta trawl samples, so that's kind of like a plankton net size thing. We did get plankton too, and it was a ton of plastic that we got. Getting worse, you know, obviously as we entered the gyre and then exiting, it was a little bit less. But we had a lot of rough weather too, like outside of LA, and that was really interesting, being seasick for like a day and then getting right into the science. So it was a challenge. I mean, like, also being required to be crew on these ships, like, it's not easy work, as all of you know, being on a boat. And we had 8 hours a day, like, that we were required to be on duty. and then one cooking day every 4 days. So it would like switch the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And man, first of all, men don't like to cook, and it's annoying. And you're like the boat mom, and then you're like, can you just at least wash the dishes? And they're just like, and then it's a lot. And then you're like, okay, now I have to go and be at the wheel for 4 hours, and then the person who's supposed to take over for you, they're seasick, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll stay on for like 3 more hours. It's not easy. And then I'm like, okay, I'm the one who also has to have a camera and a notebook and like be smiling and ask people questions when they're like puking overboard. And it's just like a lot of work. So I think if anyone can appreciate my work, they can just know that I put so much effort into it that I hope that they will take the time to take a look at it. No, but I love it. I think, and as all of you do too, it's like it's the best place in the world is out there. So
Yeah.
Way better than land.
It is.
Yeah, there's a lot less problems out there, and the ones that are out there are much more straightforward to solve most of the time.
Yeah. Besides plastic, but everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that comes from here.
True that. True that. Originating on land.
Is the root of all the problems.
I have two tattoos. One of them is a fern leaf, and the other one is a wave. And there was this competition that Carl was in a few years ago at the Museum of Natural History in New York City. And it was 2 teams, land versus sea. And I was always like, arm up with the ocean. And land won. It was really shitty. I mean, I shouldn't have said that. But they did. And it was like, no, because the ocean is so much cooler. It really is. Yeah. But anyway, to each his own or her own or their own.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because we focus so much on the ocean that we like. If we focused like deep in the forest or like something, I think we would enjoy that too.
It would be cool, but there are.
I just love being by the ocean,
like,
though. Yeah, true.
Fire ants and like.
You don't have to worry about bugs or anything unless you're at Catalina. You get bees that land on you.
Out in the water? That's crazy.
You'll be surprised. I've had bees get me in Baja in the middle of the lagoons. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
If you have like something sweet or like that smells, I think. I mean, they for sure come because like on the fishing boat, they come over for the squid.
Yeah.
They'll like surround the bucket of squid.
Wow. Yeah. Savages.
I mean, I'm mostly happy when I see butterflies on the ocean, but
I love that. I think that's cool.
Or the
migrating
the warblers or whatever.
Warblers.
What is it?
Yeah, we had tons of them this time a few days
when
ago.
It's windy.
Townsends and all that. Yeah. Land on you, eat some kelp flies, and take off again.
Okay, so birds and butterflies are good things from land, but name something else. Okay, dogs and beer.
Dogs. Tacos are from land.
Did you say tacos are from land?
Yeah.
But fish tacos can be from the ocean too.
It's a hybrid.
Yeah, it's a hybrid.
But it's food, you silly.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
So,
wait, speaking of fish, I just want to say, out on the water, have you ever been hit by a flying fish, like unexpectedly?
Oh
that
my
is
God.
Scary stuff.
So I've been working, driving second operator on a fishing boat since I've been back in SoCal, helping out a little bit because I needed a job again. And we literally had just put the boat on anchor at San Clemente Island, and a flying fish whacked the side of the island at the side of the boat. They hit the boat all the time, but we had just put the anchor down, and it hit my friend Conrad that I grew up with was on the boat, and it literally, he said it hit right next to him, and they picked it up, and they all were taking pictures with it, and then they put it back in the water.
That's insane.
Happens a lot.
Flying fish are everywhere right now. Like on the whole, once you get like 15 miles out, like you're closer to Catalina, anywhere behind Catalina or near Catalina, all the way out is like offshore and towards San Diego. There's flying fish like all over. It's so cool. They take off and then they're just going for like hundreds and hundreds of feet, and then they skip and then they go again.
And they keep up with the boat too, which is cool sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes you see the baby ones are about the size of a dragonfly. You look over, like, was that a dragonfly? It's like, no, it's a baby.
I'll try to get
it's a fish.
video of it. They scooped up a couple with a net, and they had a bunch of baby ones in the to look at them, and then they put them away. But yeah, they were like little. I didn't even know. They look like exactly. They look like that one weird what's that, like a nudibranch looking thing that like flies, but a fish. No, you know what I'm talking about?
that little blue one, right? The little,
Yeah,
little
like little
dragon
the
one.
little sea
Yeah.
angel.
Yeah, they're kind of like that.
Yeah.
But no, that's something else. What is the blue one?
The
It's like
common name is
it's
like
called like a
something
butterfly or something.
sea dragon or something weird like that. Oh, I forgot.
Ooh.
I figured Eric would know. That's funny.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't
Not a
know.
fish nerd anymore.
It's not a fish.
Oh.
Oh, it's not.
You said
Yeah,
it's not a fish.
Sea
See?
slug.
Yeah, whatever. You're still a nerd.
I can't even go down there. It's the southern hemisphere. I was supposed to be in the Galapagos right now, but no.
Oh man.
That got postponed until 2022.
What?
Not 1 year, 2 years. I gotta wait. Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, where are you going with? Who are you going with?
Galapagos, my sister. Yeah. So.
Oh, that would have been so cool.
Yeah.
Have any of you ever been?
No.
I haven't.
Okay, me either.
I missed out on Tonga this year. The trip was paid for two full trips, and I was supposed to be there from like, I think it was August 22nd to September like 20 or September 2nd or 10th or something like that. I forget the dates, but yeah, I saw the emails. They're like, your flights and hotel and everything has been canceled, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, Slater was in Baja when everything started shutting down, so he like had.
And I lost half of that trip too. I was there for like I think 10 or 11 days, and then I had to come. I still had like 7 or 8 more days there, and I had to come home.
I remember you calling me. I was like, "Don't!" I was like, "Slater, don't come home."
No, they told us.
Yeah.
They forced us to come home.
Yeah, my Baja trip got canceled. I was supposed to leave right after you, and I was like, "Oh, guess we're not."
Yeah. It's crazy.
Wait,
I only recently got back here.
Erica, so when you were in Iceland, what did you go in the summer, or were you there? What time of the year were you there?
Ooh, Iceland. I went twice, but the sailing trip I went in, I think it was March, end of March, beginning of April of last year.
Oh, so it was still really cold.
It was really raw and like so cool. And we were on this really old schooner, and it was all wooden, and it had a hot tub on the deck.
What?
Oh my god, so
They're cool
luxurious.
there, Caitlin.
And they had, you guys have to work on these whale watching boats. And I know the woman who works for them. She's so cool. And like there was a wood burning stove and like nice food and drinks. And I was like, wow, this is the life. But my bunk was leaking, but it really made up for it in every other way. And also I was with, so I sailed with the captain of the Danish ship because he wanted to come with me on this Icelandic trip. And I'm like, Torsten, we were in our own bunk room. We were like the plastic people, like in the front, in the bow. And I'm like, somehow I always have Torsten in the bunk on top of me, and he snores like a train, like so loud. And so I'm like, okay, this is just like home. Like I know this. So he's sleeping up there, and then suddenly one night it's like drip, drip, and like the whole like the deck was leaking, and I was just like, oh no, of course I got the leaky bunk. So it was super cold, and then having wet clothes in Iceland, oof, it is not advisable, but it was so cool.
Were you in
Do
a
it again
suit the whole time though when you were out on the deck?
No, I was just layered up because we were going back and forth from land to sea. We were kind of like hugging the coast.
It's too hot, honestly.
Yeah. Some people were.
Like, the whale watch companies give them out there, but like most people just tie it around their waist because it's too hot.
Yeah. I like to be agile. So I'm like leaping around the deck and they're like, hold on. We went from what's called Reykjavik to Husavik along the northern coast. And then we went to Grimsey Island, which was so cool.
Yeah, that's where all the puffins are at.
Puffins! Yeah, it was so cool.
I was supposed to go there, but the weather, it was super foggy on the island, and the lady was like, honestly, it's going to suck over there, so she told me not to go.
Oh, man.
What?
I said, oh, man.
Yeah, it sucked.
Oh, man, but if you do want to go with the whale people that I know, please let me know, because they're so cool. And their boat is really nice. Oh,
yeah, most of the boats
getting
over
nostalgic
there are like
again.
they're all like big oak boats.
Yeah, like just so cool, so cool. And these groups, like, so the one that I went with is called Ocean Missions Iceland. I will plug them here. Super professional, really nice people, and they were so upfront with everyone about the idea that like a lot of old school Icelandic folks, like they think of the oceans as a refrigerator and like have just routinely overfished them, and don't really see whales as very interesting, but they're trying to be part of like the changing tide, kind of boost the reputation of marine animals, show that they need respect. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the family I worked with there, they own a whale watch company and they own a fishing company. Actually, they own like the whole town, but like
Wow.
restaurants and stuff too. But they told me that Icelandic people don't really eat whale anymore. Like it's usually just tourists that come there that eat it.
Oh yeah, it's a whole gimmick. Which town were
Yeah.
you staying in mostly?
I was in Haganes. It's like north of Akureyri.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Really, really nice. I did not eat whale. I did eat the fermented shark.
I did too, actually. The Greenland shark.
So weird. Yeah.
I felt so
felt
bad. But the guy like gave it to me, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. I just did it out of respect. I wasn't like the dad. It's bycatch is why they have it.
Okay.
And the owner, like, so they fish for cod there, but I guess the people they don't even do the commercial fishing that gets the bycatch anymore. But the people that do, they don't take care of it. So his dad was the one that would like tie it up because they have to leave it out for like a couple months to let all the ammonia out of it.
Yeah,
because it doesn't have
still
pores.
Stinks after that.
Yeah, it was like a piece of rubber. Like,
yeah,
it was so weird. But
it
I felt out of
weird.
respect, I did it. And then I felt guilty right after.
That was the same situation with me, and like everyone's looking at me and they're like, "Schnapps, shark," and I'm like, "Okay."
That's what I
like,
did. I also at the same time drank some of the like
that
wild berry
schnapps.
alcohol. Well, it was like some berry alcohol from the top of the mountain that they said they go up there and pick these berries and then make alcohol with it.
And then you have to have it because they're offering it to you. I totally get it. Yeah.
Eric,
Misadventures.
Did you stop in Iceland too on your trip across the North Atlantic?
Yeah, I was in Reykjavik, and then I took a tour. Like, I went towards some big glacier and almost died. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm the only
Why
one
did
that
you almost
been to
die?
Iceland.
Because we went up this glacier, and then we were like literally in this crazy looking, like, almost looked like an armored vehicle, huge tires, and we fell in this hole and almost got
What?
stuck. And then we eventually got out, and then I went like climbing around on the glacier, and it was so windy. I stood on the icy part of the glacier, and the wind literally started pushing me, and I was sliding. So my sister has
Wow.
this video of me like getting blown away on the glacier. Yeah.
I'm glad you survived. That's
I'm
like
alive.
really
Yeah.
serious.
But that's pretty cool.
Damn.
It was yeah, some big glacier. My sister's got a video of it, and then drove some crazy dirt road. I know they do like some crazy world rally thing on, and that was it. And then after that, I went to headed to Greenland. So I've been to all the cold places. That was September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Reykjavik has some of the best vegan food there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They're actually it's like a really it's a lot of vegan. There's a lot of vegan restaurants in Reykjavik.
Have you
I
guys
ate
seen
Thai food there.
what's it called? What is it called? Down to Earth with Zac Efron on Netflix.
Margot's been telling me to watch it. I watched
No,
like
I
10 seconds of
it.
it, but then I fell asleep.
So it's like a little mini series, and it's kind of about like people's relationship with food and diet and water, and they go to these different places around the world, and Iceland is one of them, especially when they talk. A lot of it's about water, and so in Iceland they kind of cover some of like how like geothermal and cooking and water sources and all that like intersect in Iceland. But they go all over the world, and so just hearing you guys talk about it, I'm like, man, you guys should watch that episode.
I want to see it. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So I have to live vicariously through you guys about your Iceland stories.
You should come while watching there.
Iceland trip
COVID's
2021.
over.
Yes, please. We should go.
I feel like my passport's useless right now until COVID's over, but that's okay. I'm making it work on the East Coast.
Well, we can't even leave the country, right?
Not really.
I keep seeing all my friends. Dude, one of my friends just got married, and she's in Tahiti, and she just swam with humpbacks, and she's not even. She's not even like a whale person like us.
What?
Yeah,
That's
she's
unfair.
she's in Tahiti swimming with humpbacks. So
but part of
I don't
me
know.
also,
Obviously, she is able to fly.
Part of me is also like the social. Like for me, it's like the guilt part. Like I don't want to unnecessarily move around right now while the world is battling a pandemic and like just be a factor adding too, you know? Like I feel like that's
Oh, yeah.
it's socially irresponsible. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna be here and work and try to not interact with too many people and just not really go anywhere.
That's my strategy too.
Yeah.
I still have my EU residency, so like I could if I wanted to, but I mean, and also I feel like I had to come back to the US because what is this dumpster fire that we are now wading through? I mean, it's insane. Gotta go down with the ship, so that's why I'm back here.
You are one of the few that I think is willing to come home and go down with the ship.
Well, I was like, what? America? And I'm like, in Denmark, so I'm like, I have free healthcare here. That's really nice. And then it was just like, okay, things are just going wrong. And I don't know. I feel like you want to relate and emote with other people that are going through the same experience. And like these Danish people are like, what, you're president? I'm like, I did not vote for Trump. I submitted an absentee ballot because I was sailing on the freaking Pacific Ocean and I went through pains to do that. And yet he still won. So you know what? I'm back here now.
Well, popular vote wise, he didn't win. So your vote did matter, but that's, you know, not how the political system works in its entirety in the United States.
Of course. But anyway, going down with the ship now.
Yeah, here we are. Well, okay, so we have one last ship story to hear from you though, other than the dumpster fire we're all together for. But you did the expedition. What do they call it? Like X expedition? What do they call it?
They actually call it X expedition, like you said, and I didn't know that either when I joined. I was like, expedition.
Is that the all-female expedition thing?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw that.
They got to the Polynesian area, and then it kind of shut down. I think they stopped in Marquesas. I don't remember. But they had to shut down because of COVID, too, obviously. They didn't finish their around the world. That was an awesome trip. So that was this time last year I was preparing to go. I went to Portugal, the Azores, which are really beautiful islands. And then we sailed 13 women from the Azores to Antigua. And that took 16 days. And along the way, we were taking various samples of seawater and sediment when it was shallow, looking for plastic. And the whole purpose of the trip was to bring attention to the issue that the female body, we have a lot of weird hormones. I mean, males and females have weird hormones in their bodies, but female hormones tend to be, it seems, are more affected by plastic pollution and the fact that we might pass down these chemicals to children if we choose to have children. Our hormones might be altered, like our ability to reproduce, but also our metabolisms and whatnot could be affected by plastic more so possibly than men. A lot of this is very understudied because it's hard to isolate the effects of one substance when we're surrounded by chemicals literally everywhere we go. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking this the other day walking the dog, like exhaust from cars, smoking from cigarettes, like pollution from pesticides on lawns. Like we are literally, in our food too, like we're eating food that has like weird PFOAs and different acronym chemicals in it. So the trip though, like obviously we know plastic is a problem. We know it has these hormone disrupting chemicals in it. Obviously it's doing something that's not great for us. So it shouldn't be, a fact of measuring the magnitude. It should be like, okay, we have to bring attention. So like these trips, I don't want to call them like show ponies, but they're basically opportunities for us to demonstrate the scale and the magnitude of this issue and like do something really cool that like people will talk about and hopefully, imagine in their minds like, okay, this is possible. Like we should preserve the beauty of the ocean before it disappears because we might be all being poisoned to death. Like it's really scary. So that was why it was all women. I thought it was really like possibly going to be a terrible experience going into it because like I have some awesome female friends, including Caitlin. But a lot of my friends are guys because like sometimes they're easier to deal with. But out at sea, like, okay, I don't want to say everyone because there was a person who was problematic, but pretty much the whole crew like was so cohesive and just really fun. And we actually have a group chat on WhatsApp, and we like talk every single day still.
Oh,
like
that's awesome.
It's so cool. Yeah, so I thought that was amazing. I also thought it was like a huge undertaking to sail a boat across the world with all women. But we're proving that we're like super tough. And the captain, the first mate, and crew member, Anna, Maggie, and Sophie, like they were just super badass and like very inspiring. So yeah, I love being in touch with them, and I'm so glad that we all connected. And I hope to go again soon. It was like a process of auditioning, I guess, to be on the trip. So I like never forget, I made this video where I put like all of my foul weather gear on in my apartment that I was living with a roommate, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Reiki, get out!" And I like closed the door on her because I was like filming it for like the 50,000th time because I like kept stumbling over my words. And then I'm like wearing a rain jacket and like headlamp, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, what is this?" Boots and like my pants. Yeah, so it was really entertaining. And I guess they liked my imagination. So I told them I was ready to be out at sea.
Like, look, I have the clothes for the job. Pick me.
I literally jumped into the frame, like very melodramatically, like, I'm ready. Like, take me. So that was fun. The whole thing was fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. In terms of, oh, sorry, I was going to just add one thing. In terms of the plastic in the Atlantic, it was a serious problem, and it also suggested like the gyre in the Atlantic, while not as terrible as the Pacific, is also a significant problem.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, was how did it compare? So.
Oh, nice. I was like adding that. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because it's like so much of what I've learned is that, especially in Iceland, for example, where we saw that water currents really affected where the plastic went. So you could be sailing and there could be like enormous amount of plastic above you, below you, behind you, whatever. And you might not even know it's there because you're sailing one route. So it's like, the ocean's so vast.
Mm-hmm.
We have really such a small understanding of this problem. And yet we know that it's big. So yeah, I mean, research is important, but I think we've reached a point where we should just do something about it.
Yeah.
Because we know it's a problem, and going out there, like, it's amazing, but we're not going to really learn much more because it's just a complex system. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not learn much more than what we already need to know as far as policy.
Exactly.
Like,
oh yeah, there's so much more to learn.
Yeah.
Generally, but yeah.
But what it boils down to, like, we need to force some changes around here. We've got enough evidence. We have mountains of evidence already to support that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you got to Antigua, what was the plastic situation like on land? Like in the Caribbean, you sometimes see some of the islands, it's just like, it's horrendous in the near shore environment. What was it like when you guys arrived?
That's a good question. So Antigua, because it is so heavily touristed, there is a lot of like beach cleanups, not by informal groups, but mostly by the government, who pays people to just like go pick up the trash. Or like I've seen in Thailand, I didn't see it in Antigua, but I'm sure it could be happening. Is that people literally were hired to sweep sand over debris to like hide it, which was like insane. And I have a photo of someone in Thailand doing that, and I was just like, what am I watching? So that was interesting. But
Wow.
They do have a huge plastic problem. I think some resorts seem like they were trying to, like we talked earlier about like banning straws and stuff, but like some resorts made changes to use paper or bamboo, but not all of them. And there was like an overwhelming amount of plastic there. And we have to remember, like, a lot of these island nations, they quickly run out of space to put their garbage. And to have brought plastic to these islands and now have a tourism industry that's like fueling the use of like single-use plastics, where like we want convenience, and we share our taste for like this plastic culture, like these people have nowhere to put this stuff.
Yeah.
So the landfills are overflowing, the trash is pouring into the sea, like people are dumping it. It's a horrendous problem.
Yeah, well, and it seems like they're bearing the burden of other countries' trash too. In addition to trying to deal with their own waste management, they just happen to be in a location where the trash from you know, the open ocean is also coming to them. And so it's like it just exacerbates the problem.
Exactly. Slater, you're muted.
You don't want to know what I said.
Were you bashing Antigua?
I feel like other places might end up blaming these islands when realistically it's probably our or someone else's tourist industry that's there bringing the plastic, and then they have nowhere to put it when they wouldn't have had plastic in the first place.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Freaking you science, nailed it. Dude. I'm out.
That's politics, really. I mean, it's science and it's conservation, but that's also politics, you know, like that.
And economics.
Yeah.
Do you know, I spent today writing in my book about the wealthier nations shipping their trash to smaller islands in other nations, like in Southeast Asia. Wow, that is really messed up stuff.
Well, it's kind of an evolving situation too, because what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? Some of the Asian countries that originally were taking our really poor quality plastic finally said enough is enough. The contamination thresholds that we've set for you, you continue to not meet. So you're sending us contaminated recyclables, and they're already hard enough to recycle because of the quality of the plastic, and now they're contaminated, and all we're doing is disposing of your garbage, basically, because we can't recycle it.
Exactly. That was called the National Sword Policy, which is really weird. But anyway, like exactly what you said, like now these countries are like putting up a boundary, or at least saying, you know, please get serious about this or we're not going to take your trash. But yet we still continue to do it, and a lot of governments in these countries are corrupt, and yet they will say something and do something completely different, as in take the trash, have a better public image. It looks like they're getting serious about the environment, and yet they're exposing, you know, people that are picking waste, who are really poor people, to toxic chemicals and you know, dangerous things like glass and sharp plastic pieces. Like, it's not good for anyone. And yet the wealthy nations can actually write off, this is recycled plastic, if they send it somewhere else to be recycled, which is not being recycled. So we have to keep that in mind, that literally it's been, I think it was 9% of all plastic, of like billions of tons of plastic ever made, only 9% has ever been recycled since 1950. Insane. That is like nothing. And yet, like, the companies are pushing it on us to be like, you've got to recycle. You're being bad if you don't recycle. And it's like, we put our trash in the recycling bin. It might be shipped to Thailand and just be burned because, and the US is saying, oh, it's recycled. And it's like, no, it's definitely not. So we have to stop using plastic.
Yeah, because also, like, there's a whole, like, health issue then too. Like, now we're sending our plastic to go be burned and have these horrible, like, toxic fumes be put out into the population somewhere else. It's not, you know, it's our trash, but it's not our people bearing the burden of the exposure.
Exactly. It's really screwed up. And it's like, the more I learn, the more angry I get. Someone's going down.
I'm ready. Let's go.
I think it's the oil and gas industry. No, yeah. But that's another thing I hope that your listeners know, is that, like, we really have to do something about the oil and gas industry, because first of all, climate change. Second of all, because of climate change and new policies to kind of curb use of gas and oil for transportation, electricity, and electric vehicles now being rolled out. My vehicle definitely does not fit the standards of an emissions friendly vehicle. I'm sure Caitlin might also agree with her pickup truck.
But it's surprisingly, it does better than most vehicles in its age class. But yeah, the miles per gallon and the emissions readings off my vehicle personally come off pretty good, which is why I haven't felt super guilty about it yet, but I do walk to work every day.
Nice. Perfect. But I don't believe in shaming people for doing this, because, like, for example, like, financially, like, I had to buy a beat up pickup truck because I'm 28 and I don't got a lot of money. So
yeah.
And also people who buy food, like, imagine not everyone can buy things from a farmer's market every week, where it's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in shaming people. I believe that, like, we can make choices to, like, a certain capacity. or at a certain level, but the oil and gas industry, like, they've sold us this idea that like convenience is king, and like we'll be happier if only we have these things and we have this time, if we can eat on the go and do this and that. So it's it's not really us. It's like we've been sold this weird culture and we have to do something about it. So
Yeah.
Taking down that industry is key.
I agree. I think if you're going to shame anyone, it really should be the corporations, because they have the resources and the money to do this better than they do, and they choose not to. And our government subsidizes a lot of it. So
exactly.
I've been listening to this podcast called Drilled, and it's all about like climate reporting, and it's amazing the amount of work that they do on the reporting. It's very thorough, and it's really compelling, and a lot of what you just said is what they discuss, and I recommend it to anybody that wants to learn more about oil and gas, because they actually are at the top of the culprits behind the plastic industry. They're the ones supplying the raw materials to make plastic, and so it's all very intertwined, and it's
exactly
really interesting stuff.
I wrote that down to listen to Drilled. Thank you. Yeah.
I mentioned it. Yeah. If anybody's been listening to like the mini episodes I did when we were in lockdown and stuff, I did mention it a couple times in there too, because it's really, really good. I really like it.
And we need to focus on that now. I mean, like, we gotta take down Trump, then oil and gas. I think that's possible.
I hope so. We gotta take a few people down at least, because man, I can't believe how many people are profiting off of our crisis.
It's bad. It's so bad.
And another thing they talked about on Drilled is the coronavirus relief money that went out to corporations and to people to help float the economy through this crisis. Oil and gas got several pieces of the package, and I was like, excuse me?
So insane. Like, the people who need it least.
Yeah.
Why?
And they're getting passes on they're not getting fines or infractions for environmental impacts. They're getting permits still processed. Like, it's amazing. It's like the lady called it like oil and gas Christmas, COVID Christmas right now for the oil and gas.
Oh my God.
Getting everything.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Like, capitalizing off of other people's complete destruction of their lives. Great. Fine. Yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned your book a few times.
Okay.
Do you want to give us a little more of a tease, since you're pretty close to being done?
I'll do it. So I'm not going to read it word for word, but I'll just tell you that in my book, if you choose to read it, which I hope that you do, you will get a journey to away. So this mythical place that we believe that we are throwing our garbage, I kind of hinted at it before. And what you'll take away from my book is that this is actually just a construct of our human imaginations, and that there really is no such place as away. So our whole culture that we've forged towards disposability is a complete lie. And I'll weave that into my adventures across the world, and hopefully you'll meet some really cool people who can tell you more about plastic and also tell you more about what we should do to kind of change our ways. So I hope that was enough of a teaser. It's hard because like there's so much in that book, and it's like my brain sometimes at the end of the day is just like, whoa. Like,
what's the title, Erica?
Oh, the title. Oh gosh. Well, I've changed it a few times.
Oh, okay.
But
it's a work in progress still.
Okay.
The first one I wanted to call it is The Things You Miss at Sea, because I learned that the things that you miss at sea are not things at all. Like, I learned that when I did my first trip, because I came back and I was like, wow. Like, I was standing at my kitchen sink in my apartment where I was living when I was doing the sailing trips. And I would stand at the spigot and, like, instead of just like turning on the faucet, I started tapping my foot, because on the boat we had a foot pump, and like you literally had to pump the water, and I was just like, oh God, like I'm losing my mind. And everything out there was just like so simple and wonderful. So I was just like, yeah, I didn't miss anything out there. I missed like people and my dog and like just love. I don't know, it was just like those kind of things. But It went through various iterations. Now I would like to call it thicker than water. And that's because plastic is thicker than water.
I like that.
And it's a play on words. My editor wanted poisonous seas, so that was what the name is on the book deal. But you can look for thicker than water. It might undergo another change. You can really never predict what will happen with a book. So
can you make it an audible book? Like
yeah, of course. Oh, I do have
Slater can't read, unfortunately.
Well, I have an audio book. I have an audio book deal, actually. So it's good. It'll come out both ways right away. So that's exciting.
Nice.
Are you planning to narrate, or are they just gonna have someone do it?
Oh God, I hope they don't use my voice.
Admiral.
I have them. Oh, Attenborough would be.
Hey, he just passed.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine if David Attenborough?
He'd be like, and then we sailed across the ocean.
Hey, you guys follow him on Instagram yet, or what?
See what?
Did you follow him on Instagram?
No.
Do I follow?
He's the fastest growing Instagram account since Jennifer Aniston.
What?
He's
I
the fastest person to get to 1 million followers in one day.
Good for him.
Plug for David Attenborough. All right.
Dude, follow him up. He's doing some cool. He's posting a lot of cool videos.
Wait, guys, he just followed me. He just followed me.
Are you kidding me?
Yes. Sorry.
He just followed me.
I didn't know how believable it would be.
I would cry.
Anyway, I wish he did. Oh, Slater.
Maybe he will.
Oh. Thank you.
Someone just DM'd me this in San Diego. Look at this.
What is it?
Look.
Is it the beluga again? Oh, killer whale.
Wow, nice.
Oh, it made it down there.
Wait.
Yeah.
Really?
That was on a fishing boat.
Yeah, we haven't seen him since September.
Who is it?
I want to say September.
Who is it?
I don't know the official name we gave it. There was a big old battle about that, but I want to say September was the last time.
What
pod? Do you know what pod it is?
I forgot. Let me look at my log. Remember that, Caitlin, that's the one we got messaged on when we were in lockdown, remember?
Yes. All right.
Let me get my log.
I don't have in my immediate notes the ID number, but it's a group of transient killer whales that have been seen off of California, and I think have they been seen north?
I'm not sure if it's gone further north than us.
I'm trying to remember if their pod had been seen before this whale was born, if their pod had been seen off Oregon or something.
My friend just sent me, so the guy that sent me this video, because he's a fisherman, he follows all the fishing accounts. They saw killer whales like way out behind, kind of in between San Clemente and Santa Barbara, but like probably 40 miles off of San Clemente or something like that, or 50 miles, I forget. Way out there, but they had killer whales. And I don't know which way they're heading, but maybe it's these one because it's only been a few days, and so maybe they were headed. Cool. Maybe they were headed south.
Interesting.
Both these fishermen have been with these killer whales in flat, calm water, and they go right next to the boat. Wow.
Wow. Lucky.
You know what's surprising though is like these offshore fishing boats, like I talked to them, and they really don't see like one. I don't think they're looking for it, but they really don't see whales that much. Like I saw.
Erica, when you've been sailing across the oceans, how often did you encounter whales? I feel like it's pretty sparse, honestly.
It was very sparse. I mean, in the Pacific, we saw pilot whales a few times, but never
I feel like
any.
You can encounter dolphins a lot more.
Yes, way more dolphins. And then, like in Iceland, we saw a lot of whales, but sperm whale, killer whales, and maybe a minke. But yeah, definitely more dolphins out in the middle of the oceans.
Yeah,
which are really
cool
again, too.
Fishermen see stuff that we don't get to see, like beaked whales out of nowhere.
Ooh.
And you're like, oh, okay, cool, dude. I've been only searching my whole life.
What about when you first left on the X expedition out of the Azores? Like, did you see anything up there?
We actually had a weird thing where there were a lot of these birds, and now I'm like not remembering which kind of birds they were. I know it's not whales. But they called them something funny. I'm going to look it up on Instagram. Yeah, I mean, we saw dolphins. It wasn't really anything spectacular.
They have grizzlies there, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. There was a huge storm, though, because it was on the tail end of a hurricane that had crossed the Atlantic. So it actually was, like, really rough, and we didn't see a ton of wildlife because it was just really weird conditions. But I'm glad we got out there with little trouble. We waited on land, like, we were living on the boat, but we waited in the slip for, like, 5 days before leaving because it was just, like, really dangerous. Like, huge waves crashing up. Oh, Corey Shearwaters.
Oh, yeah.
And they actually had, like, these signs out that said, like, be aware of these birds because the lights on the Azores, like, attract them, and a lot of them get wayward and stranded. So interesting. But yeah, I mean, when we neared Antigua, we had, like, spectacular dolphin sightings.
Yeah,
that was really, really cool.
Yeah, once you get away from the coastal ecosystem, the nutrient load in the ocean is different, and so
Right.
these little pockets of productivity, but overall it's big stretches of not a lot going on.
Yeah, that's what we experience. It's crazy. But then there's also, like, the beauty of, like, seeing nothing, like, no life. Oh, we caught 2 mahi on the Atlantic, which was, like, delicious.
Nice.
But yeah, and also in the Pacific, on one trip we caught 8 mahi, and one of them had plastic in its stomach. At least one of them, but we kept plastic from one of them. And the South Pacific I think we caught 2 tuna, which was kind of neat. So, we did see some life and we ate them. So
when you were catching Dorado, were you, like, fishing, like, a kelp patty, or do you know?
we just threw a line in the water and dragged through. So I can't tell you, like, where they caught on the line. We were trolling. They see me trolling. Literally on the Pacific, I made up so many songs because it was just like, it's a long time to be on a boat with, like, limited things to do. There was no internet. There was no nothing. I mean, the Danish boat is really primitive. So I actually have in my phone somewhere notes where, like, we made songs. Like, they were really, like, intensely thought about. So that's always fun, that little cultural side of sailing.
Yeah. Yeah, even on the offshore cruise I worked, we were within the first 400 miles of shore, but there were definitely days where, like, we didn't really see anything, and there'd be 6-8 hours of the day just be looking at water.
It's wild.
Maybe a bird every once in a while. That's it.
Yeah.
And trash. The trash was, like, the most consistent thing, I think.
Exactly. And that's scary as hell.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, it's like, I actually drew one time. This was really weird. Like, in high school, drew a picture of people, like, in masks, but they were in nature. And then it was just, like, plastic was everywhere. There were no animals. And it's, like, literally becoming the world. And that is a freaky premonition. And I was like, high school Erica, you knew it.
Like that.
No, I literally made a drawing like that. And it's so freaky. And I have it at my mom's. I have to, like, put it online somewhere. It's so weird. It's, like, creepy. So this is what we're doing to ourselves.
Yep.
We should think of the whales.
Well, I think that's all the questions that I had for you. I don't know if you have any other parting wisdom or experiences you want to give us.
Wisdom.
Did you read any good ocean books while you were out at the ocean?
Oh, hell yeah, I did. So one of them, probably, one of them was called Lost at Sea, and that was by John Ronson, and I think he's, like, a hilarious British author. I also really love British people. I just find their humor, like, really entertaining. Attenborough. No, he's not British, is he? He's, like, from Scotland. I don't know. Anyway, Lost at Sea is really good. Now I'm looking at my collection. Oh, this was so weird. In Hawaii, this surfboard guy gave me a book about surfing. It's called what is it called? In Search of Captain Zero. Very entertaining. And it was about this, like, surfer who was on Long Island, New York, where I am now. Went to Costa Rica, went to Hawaii. Whoa. And then I passed it on to my surfer friend Justin, and now he has it because he steals all of my books. Justin, if you're listening, you're still my friend. He does. Like,
Dang, it has a lot of reviews.
It's a great book. I had a party though, and I just remember Justin like left, and he's like, "I took 2 of your books." I'm like, "You didn't even ask." Yeah, these are my friends. They're great. No, but that was a good book. Yeah, and there was another book. I'm looking now. Oh, Marcus Erickson's Junk Raft. That's a good one for the reading on the ocean. And it's about plastic. So he made a raft out of junk, hence the title. And he sailed it across the garbage patch. It was so crazy. You should read it.
Okay.
Like a plain fuselage and
the
different
Junk
stuff.
Raft.
So good.
It's on Audible. That's 2,227 reviews.
Wow.
It's like a
on
4
Junk Raft or Lost at Sea.
The Lost at Sea one. It's a 4 3/4 star.
I don't know if you'll like it, but I thought it was really entertaining. My brother bought it for me, so I was like happy to read it because he's just like, "Don't get lost at sea." And then the rudder and the engine broke, and it was like a large chance that we would be lost at sea. So it was really ironic. I wouldn't have minded it. It was fine. We were eating rice and beans and cans of things, and it was just like, all right, here we go.
So, but what about provisions for water? Like, how did you guys deal with fresh water? Did you have like a osmosis system or like desal or like
bunch of plastic water bottles?
Oh,
that's what it was. Eric is right. On the X Expedition boat, we had it literally is. We had the desal system on that boat, so we didn't have. We also had water tanks that we filled, but on the Danish boat, like they had much smaller tanks. This was like a 54-foot boat, and one of the tanks was leaking. It was like, oh no. That's what you get on a really old ship sometimes. So we actually bought like huge gallon jugs of water, which is like extremely wasteful, and they are trying not to do that, but like the way the boat was equipped with water, we like would not have gotten through it any other way. So, but the XX boat, like they really thought it through. Although if the desal breaks, you're screwed. So yeah. But anyway,
the XX boat was a little bit had more robust funding sources too, though. Yeah, like it was a bit
bougier.
Big deal. Yeah.
they had freshwater showers. I was not about to let that chance to take a freshwater shower pass up. So every time we had extra water, I was like, I'm gonna go take a shower in fresh water, and I'm gonna feel so nice after. I like walk out of the bathroom like, it was so good. Yeah, that before getting in your bunk is like, it's better than sex. It is. It is.
There's a shower on the boat I work on too. And
it's
then when I go to sleep,
nice.
I usually take a shower and then go to sleep.
It's the best thing. It's like, if I can look forward to that, then we don't need plastic. We can like look forward to showers on boats and like seeing dolphins. It's the best. I wish everyone could feel the way that we do about the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my parting wisdom, I think, is like people look around you, like the world is so cool and you should be nerdy about it because you'll appreciate it more.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to be nerdy and take showers on boats because it's good.
Please, for the sake of your fellow crew members, take a shower on the boat.
Oh yeah, true that. For me, it was mostly like a hair situation because I have like really big hair. Right now it's under control, but it can be really scary out there. So.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I have the same struggle.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Slater and Eric are sitting there like, can't relate.
Smooth.
I barely have any hair. Yeah.
You still have hair. You're hiding it.
I just shave it.
Nice.
Really short because it gets out of hand. It gets puffy.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I can't get over your mask and hat tan now that you have your hat off.
Can you see it still? Oh, you can see
Eric
it.
has a mask.
Wait.
You do have a hat tan too. Wow.
Yeah.
Yep. What?
I have to take a snapshot of it, Eric. I'm sorry.
I'm working outside.
I'm making a terrible face.
I'll
Click
put
that
them
away.
on for our Patreon followers. I mean, they'll be able to see the behind the scenes version of this.
You can redo it.
You can get a really nice snapshot of Eric's 2020 tan lines.
2020 tan lines.
This is the world we're living in.
All right. Well, I think we'll probably wrap it up here. Thank you so much for getting on the podcast with us, Erica. It was so nice to hear from you and hear about your experiences. I think it's something, it wasn't very much whale related, but I think it's something that's still really important and interesting. We don't always get to talk to people that do what you do. So thank you.
Well, thanks to all of you, because I look up to each and every one of you, like Slater with his photography, Eric with his new to branch hunting, and Caitlin with her whale extraordinaire over here. Like, all of you are so cool. So I'm honored to be speaking with you.
Yeah, and I'm so glad to see Eric and Slater. It's been months.
Yeah.
We've all got.
Yeah, look, Erica, you got us all back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for that also, Erica.
Yeah. Well, we should make it more regular and.
Yeah, we'll try. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I just need to find some whales again in my life, and then I'll be talking about them.
This year has been tough in a lot of ways, so we're getting through the best we can.
Thanks for coming on here, Erica. It was nice seeing you again.
Yeah, thanks, Erica.
Thank you.
So
talk
thank
to
you,
you
everyone.
soon.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you don't follow us on social media, you can find us at Whale Nerds. And if you're interested in getting more behind the scenes content or supporting our work, because the podcast is not free for us to produce, you can follow us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/whalenerds. Other than that, thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.